Have you noticed Navisworks Manage included in your Autodesk collection and wondered what it actually does? In this webcast, I will break down what Navisworks Manage is, what sets it apart from other software in your collection, and how to bring value to your workflows, whether you're coordinating models, detecting clashes, or ensuring projects stay on track. Navisworks provides powerful tools for collaboration and project review. Here is a closer look at the agenda for today. I will start off with a brief overview of the software and what it is big picture wise. Then we will drill in a little further and highlight some major points of discussion, like the three different versions of Navisworks. There is Freedom, Simulate, and Manage. I will explain the difference in those three flavors of the software. We will then discuss what file types can be used in Navisworks, plus the three different file types native to Navisworks. Then we will talk about all of the great features in the software. And if all goes according to plan, we will do a live demo showing some of the great features in the software, including the Clash Detective tool. I will also be sure to save us some time for Q&A. If you do have questions, feel free to type it in the question panel. It might not get answered right away, but I will be sure to address it either during the Q&A, or if we get short on time, I will for sure follow up and make sure you get an answer. So at the most basic level, Navisworks can be thought of as the universal tool to take models from all trades and combine them into a single model. Once you have models from all sorts of different trades combined into one file, this opens the door for all sorts of useful applications like review, markup, animator, quantification, scripting, timeliner, rendering, and of course the Clash Detective. If you're kind of curious what any of these features are, well, we're going to take a good look at them as we go. And you know what? Now is probably a good time just to kind of jump into the software real quick and just show you one of the things that is huge for me with Navisworks. So I have a client that we're working on a house design for, and most of the work is being done in Revit for the home design itself, for the actual building. But one of the big components is they want to make sure that the views are being framed of the mountain nearby. So I was able to take the site model from InfraWorks, built this huge topo surface. We got the giant mountain in here. And then if we just zoom in just a little bit to the site, we can see the house right there with the context of the neighborhood and the mountain. So where Navisworks was really able to help out was I could go inside the building here and start to kind of look around and make sure that the views of the mountain are being framed in certain places. So here's a good example from the kitchen. We're looking at the mountain right there. I have a couple other ones from our landing up here. Again, just making sure that the client is happy. And we were able to prove this, pull up the model and show them what that's going to look like. And that's something we would not be able to do very efficiently inside the actual design software. All right, so let's go back here to our slides. So back to kind of some of the um, educational housekeeping to do up front before we really get into the demo. There's three types of Navisworks. The first one is Navisworks Freedom. It is free and anyone can download it. It is essentially just a viewer. So that means it can't open all types of Navisworks files. It can only open NWD files. This will make a little more sense once I discuss the different file types on the next slide. Um, Working our way down here with Navisworks Simulate, you get all the features except the clash detective. And that brings us to Navisworks Manage, which is the full version. And it comes with the AEC collection. I believe Simulate comes with the AEC collection as well, but you might as well just install Manage. And that's what we'll be using in our webcast. So the first file type that you need to know is the NWC or .nwc, that is also called a Navisworks cache file. And that is what Navisworks is reading when you open a Revit, AutoCAD, or Inventor file in Navis. Even if you open the file natively within Navis, the software converts it to a readable NWC. So that's what the software is actually reading. If you ever saw an NWC file next to one of your project files and don't remember creating it, my guess is that it was opened up in Navisworks at some point, and that is why the NWC is there. The next file type is an NWF. I tend to think of this as the working file or master file where I store all of my markups, viewpoints, clashes, animations, etc. This will also save the references to other files you're working on, whether they're NWCs, DWGs, RVTs, NWDs, you name it. And all of these files will be linked into the file as references. So you need to make sure your file paths are up to date and you don't move files that are used. So file size will be a lot smaller, very small, since the files are all referenced and not actually embedded. And that will be we'll be working out an NWF file today. Then we have the NWD. So what's the use of an NWD file? Well, it can be thought of as a completed project and mostly used when the native CAD files are no longer subject to change. The only time I typically use NWD is if I need to send the file to someone who needs to view the file in Navisworks Freedom. If you are used to AutoCAD terminology, then I would say this is comparable to a bound XREF, since all the files will be embedded into one. So therefore the size is typically going to be a little bigger with these. All right. One other important thing here, now that we understand the native file types, let's see what other files it can work with and how this applies to the first feature I want to discuss. So the first one I would like to discuss here is the fact that you can take models from all different trades and combine them into that one file in the form of a consolidated model, like you just saw in the software. So there was an FBX and an RVT in that example. So the beauty of this is that you could have the architects and MEP engineers providing Revit models, the civil engineer working in AutoCAD Civil 3D, the structural engineers working in advanced steel, and maybe you have HVAC or other manufacturer on board providing Inventor files. That is just one example, but you can see on the screen a short list of some of the common file types that are supported. I think the list is growing. This might be out of date, so the list keeps growing and growing. And you might notice that there are many on here that are not even created from Autodesk design applications. Um, so while you are looking this list over, the fact that you can create a consolidated model from all different kinds of file formats is actually a really big deal. For example, if I was working in, let's say, AutoCAD or another predominantly 2D application, it might be hard or impossible for me to import or XREF a Revit or other 3D model. Um, Now, you might be sitting here thinking, well, my consultants and I are always working in the same application. Why would we need Navis when we can see all the models at any time? Well, in that case, these next features I'm going to show you will help kind of clear that up a little bit. So once we have our model consolidated into a single file and we can see all of the trades together, we can then start using some of the review tools. In this one screenshot here, you can see on the screen, I used the walkthrough tool to find a view I liked. Then I saved the camera location for easy retrieval at my leisure. I did not use the section tool for this one, but I did utilize the full render mode, which is the default. It displays the materials, textures, lights, reflections, and shadows. You would think that having this much detail would make it choppy during navigation, but it's extremely smooth. Other visual styles include hidden line, wireframe, and shaded. All right, now in addition here, I changed the signage to blue so it could be better seen in this view, and that's using the override appearance tool. And then I also hid the foundation, which was part of the structural model, because I just didn't need it for this particular view. One of the other great things about Navisworks is the ability to leverage your BIM content. Typically, when you open a file in a piece of software other than its native design application, there will be some data loss. However, that couldn't be further from reality with Navis. In fact, it is almost the opposite, because the ability to access that information is what will allow us to utilize some of the advanced features inside of Navisworks. Plus, the ability to add user-defined properties is pretty huge. The image on the left shows how I can easily examine object properties. Another helpful tool is the ability to easily create search sets based on these object properties. For example, the image on the right shows that maybe I want to create a search set that will find and select all of the chairs in the model, but only on the first floor. I can easily do that and save the search set for later. Now, this is huge because I now have the benefit of that search set being updated to capture any changes in the source model as it's reloaded with any changes. So maybe some more chairs got added, some got deleted. By utilizing that and saving that search set, the selection will be updated based upon that criteria. In addition to the review tools I just mentioned, sometimes you need to find a quick dimension or mark up a view. You can then create a separate viewpoint with the red line clouds, lines, arrows, and even text to share with the appropriate team members. There is also a tags and comments feature, which is a little more sophisticated. You can add a numbered tag to the model, then review any comments associated to that tag as well as see whoever added or edited the comment. You can see the date added, as well as status options, including new, active, approved, and resolved. So I would say all of those features in the last few slides are pretty neat, but also somewhat standard. We are now going to look at the features that really take your workflows to the next level. For these, it probably makes a little more sense to switch over to the software. We'll first take a look at hyperlinks, where you can link to a website or document on your network. Then we'll look at the animator, one of my personal favorites, where you can take a bunch of saved views and have the software use them to create a seamless walk or fly through. And then with the animator, you can also apply motion to modeled objects in a scene, whether it's showing a door open or maybe even showing a large piece of equipment or truck moving around the model. Then the scripter allows us to run an animation with the click of a keyboard button. Very useful for client presentations, as you will see. Well, I even threw an extra one in there, which we'll talk about when we do the demo. Then there's the timeliner, which is awesome for construction simulations. And then, of course, we will take a look at the clash detective. All right, so let's switch back over to the software here, and I'll go ahead and open up our data set for today. You can see it's checking and making sure that none of the files were updated, and it's reloading the latest ones for us. So let's just kind of zoom around here for a minute. We've got, let's open up our selection tree here. This will show we've got 3 different models in here. We've got our architectural and MEP models, and we'll turn on the structural model in a little bit here. So one of the first things I want to show you is hyperlinks. So I'll go ahead and turn on our links here, and we could click on these links to go see other views, or we could use the saved viewpoints tool over here and see where these different views are located. But I'm going to go to the one I saved here for the sign, and I can see there's a link here. And when I click on this, it takes me out to the website. So in addition to website links, let's look at some of the other more practical options we have here. We could go to the back door here, and you'll notice that we've got a link here on this door. So we can actually assign cut sheets to this modeled object here. Let me grab something here. There we go. So if I click on the hyperlink associated with this door here, it will open up a PDF saved locally or on a server, or even heck on the web as well. And it will take you to the specs or cut sheets, whatever you want to link to, just to document. The next one is going to be very useful for facilities management teams. Let's say I go to this viewpoint here looking at this air handling unit, and you could have maintenance crew out there with their iPads, and they could click on this object here and actually open up the Excel spreadsheet with all the maintenance logs for this actual item, so they can see all the maintenance that had recently been done, and then they could do their work for the day, and when they're done, update the spreadsheet here. 1023, 25. Let's just put it in there. Maybe this is a demo or webcast. And then save our log here, close out of it. And now it's ready for the next time. All right, so still, pretty basic. Let's continue on here. Let's get a little more fun here. So let's go back to the exterior view. I'm going to turn off the links. And anytime you rotate the model or zoom in on a particular item that is of importance, you can save that view over here and always recall it at a later date. But one of the cool things you can do with this is you can put a whole bunch of these together. So I've just got like 8 or 9 views here. So one starts here at the front, corner, side, and they all go around the building. So what I was able to do is drag and drop these inside this little flyover animation, and the software will actually stitch them together and play a little video. So it's just jumping from one view to the next, stitching them together. So you could just have this playing on a screen. This is going pretty fast, and you can actually change the total amount of time. I think this is a 30-second animation, but I could modify the properties and make it longer. So, while I'm having a conversation with the client, the little flyover is playing in the background. Right, yeah, this is a 30 seconds, so you could update that to whatever you need. But from there, that's kind of a simple animation that the software creates very easily with not much user intervention. So we've got a more sophisticated option here using the actual animator window here. So some of the limits of this method where we just drop the viewpoints in here are the software will equally space the viewpoints together. So if some are too close together, it might speed up or be too slow in certain places. But the animator will allow you to take views and assign them for certain times. So here, let's start with this one. I'm going to dock this window here, so we will lose a little bit of real estate. Typically, when I'm working, I'll have this animator or scripter or timeliner on a separate window, so I get the whole screen here. But for the webcast, we'll just kind of make do with seeing both here. So if I break down this camera here, I'll tell you what, I'll just play it. Stop and then play it here. So what's happening is I'm telling it where I want the camera to be at certain times, rather than it being equally spaced. And that's what the timeliner allows you to do. So as that's done playing, I'll show you here at 0 seconds, I want to start out here, and then at 7 seconds I want to be at the door, 12 seconds I want to be here, 18 I want to be fully turned around, and then backwards to here. That's just the camera. There's even more to it here. you'll notice we have an animation here for the exterior doors. Let's watch this again. And you'll see that I was able to tell the software, I want the door to be closed at 3 seconds. And then I was able to have it in the open position at 7 seconds. So let's watch that. And then I did the same with the interior door too. So exterior door starts to open, interior door starts to open. We get through them, start to turn around, and then we could start to see them close as well. So that, for me, I would create walkthroughs for clients, and then, you know how you just kind of smash through the door and they're like, well, when, you know, it's always just, it's kind of like embarrassing when they're like, why can't you just open the door? Well, now we can with Navisworks. So I got a couple other animations here. Let's take a look at this one. So this scene here raises the roof of the building when I play it. So I was able to select just the items that I want to lift off. When I play this animation, it starts in the down position, goes to the up position, stays there, and then starts to go back down. So, you know, this, again, this is great. You know, if you want to look at something here, let's play it again. Let's see. Look, oh, looks like I'm missing some flex duct here. So now I can see that because I've got the roof lifted off and now it's coming back down. All right, let's do a couple more here. I've got an animation for my door. All right. For my exterior door, I'll just go ahead and get close to it and click play here. So this is a short one. It's only from 0 to 4 seconds. When I hit play, the door starts to open and then it's fully open. And that's it. That's all it is. Just opens the door. All right. So now, let's say I go to, yeah, you know, let's do the scripter now. So the scripter, you can enable your scripts here. And then let's X out of this. Let's zoom out. My scripter is what allows me to play those animations based upon some sort of user input. So let's say I'm just looking at the model and I think, ooh, you know what? I need to see inside there real quick. Well, I can hit the up arrow on my keyboard, raises the roof. Stays there for a few seconds. I can kind of spin around, look inside my model, check it out, and then eventually it'll kind of finish the animation and go back down. So here's another one that I added in. Let's say I go to the entry here and I use the actual walk tool. I don't think I've showed this yet. So we can freely walk around this model here. Using the walk tool, I can look up, look down, look all around, really kind of explore this thing. But watch what happens when I start to get close to this door here. The door begins to open. And then when I back up, we can see it start to close. So let's take a look under the hood here and see what's controlling that. So this is the scripter tool. I have a line item here for raising the roof. The condition is on a key press and the up key. And then I told it, this is the action here, play the animation that lifts the roof up. For the doors, for the exterior door here, Instead of on key press, it's on a hotspot, and it's set to trigger when I enter the hotspot, and we told it what needs to be animated, the radius. So when I get within 30 feet, it should trigger the animation, and this is the animation it plays. Exterior door swing, remember I had it set to just open, so it starts at the start and ends at the end. But here's a really interesting thing. I needed an animation to close the door as well. Everything's the same here, except for the animation. I reversed it. It starts at the end and ends at the start. So I only needed that one animation, and I was able to create 2 scripts. So that saves some work there. All right, so that's the script tool. Yeah, let's now look at the timeliner. Oh, you know what? I want to show you one other thing, because now that we've started to get a lot of features here, we can kind of start to stack different features. So, and I'll do this a few times, but let's say I play the let's see here. Let's say I play the flyover and then hit the up arrow. That's not going to let me do them at the same time. But yeah, you'll see we can start to use all of these different features at the same time. So let's say I get to the view I want. And then I can rerun that script again. All right, so let's now go to the timeliner. Timeliner, this is one of my favorites here. For this one, we'll unhide the structural model here. So let me X out of there real quick. This is what our structural model looks like by itself. All right. So what I've done is I've created a construction timeline to show the structure being built. So let's go ahead and watch that. Let's just let it play. So you can see the footings are being started, they're finished, the foundation wall is finished. When things show up in green, that means they're in the middle of construction. When they're fully rendered, that means they're done. As this is running, you can kind of orbit around to get a better view. Just like that. So how does this work? Let's go back to the tasks tool here. So basically what I did is I have a line item for all the actions that I wanted. So when the footings go in, I have them starting on a particular date and ending on a particular date. It's a construct. You can also do a demolish, but this I wanted to show it being built. I didn't have any demo to do. And then I was able to attach the model elements that go with this line item. So this is a pretty simple animation, but if you do work in Microsoft Project or any other construction software that tracks tasks in this way, you can import all of those line items with the dates and everything, and then it's just a matter of adding the modeled elements to these line items. And you can even write rules so it'll match them with property values. So it can go pretty quick if you get it set up with this in mind. Let's continue here. So when we configure it, we can decide, hey, do we want 90% green transparent when it starts, or do we want it to be 90% yellow? You know, you can change these. So that's when it starts. When it ends, it's the full model render appearance. I did actual dates on mine. I didn't do planned versus actual. That's an option too. I kept mine pretty simple here. But on the simulate tab, let's take a little look under the hood here. You can change the playback duration, and then we're doing the actual dates. But you can also link an animation here. Maybe I just put this one camera in here. Let's play it again. So in this one, it's using that camera view I had here. Let's undock that so we get bigger here. So we're walking through, kind of seeing things get built. See that first bay go in. Camera's going to kind of turn around and start to see things being built. All right, so we'll go ahead and stop that one. The other thing you can do is, yeah, let's do the flyover. So again, this goes back to what I was saying, how we can stack. Let me turn that off, no link. So if there's no link assigned, I can really just start playing my flyover and then play my simulation. So we're kind of doing two things at once here. We got the animation and the construction timeline are going at the same time. All right, so that brings us to the probably one of the most used features here. Let's go to the Clash Detective here. This one, we're going to set this up together. So I don't have any clashes started here yet. We're going to build this together pretty quick here. So first thing I'll do is go ahead and add a test. Let's say I want to rename this structure versus MEP. And in my selection items here, I'm going to run the whole structure model versus the whole MEP model. Typically, you'll probably drill in a little more, get more specific, like maybe I'll do steel versus pipes or steel versus duct or something like that. And you don't have to choose the whole model. You can just kind of expand the selection tree and choose just what you need. But in this case, we'll just kind of keep it pretty simple here. The other thing is we're clashing surfaces, and we're doing a hard clash 0 feet. If you have items that need to have a clearance of, I don't know, ½ inch, full inch, you can add that in there. Instead of doing a hard clash, we can do a clearance. And that way, if something encroaches on that clearance, it'll come back as an actual clash. All right, so let's run this test here. And sure enough, we got 7 clashes here. Let me move this over so you can see it. So the first one is selected here. It looks like we've got a duct going through our beam up here. And as we click through these, it cycles through and highlights all of your other clashes. And it'll take you to each one. So here's one thing I can do. You can see that, to me, it looks like these clash 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all because of this one pipe. If we move this one pipe, because it runs the whole length of the building, that could probably clear up 4 clashes. So what I can do is group them together. So I'll shift select them and then click the group selected clashes button and call it sprinkler pipe. So now it's kind of, as far as the software is concerned, it's kind of treated as one clash. Let me step back a minute here. So if we look up here, I didn't talk about this very much before, but it told us how many clashes we had. And since we grouped a few of these, we now have 4 instead of 7. And since this is the first time we ran this test, everything is new. Everything is a new clash. When we rerun it, you'll see some of these other states used. All right. So let's continue reviewing. So clash 1, let's dig in a little deeper here. This duct needs to be moved down. So what I can do is click assign here, assign it to HVAC engineer, Mary, and say, please move duct down. And then assign that. And then clash 2, as I look a little deeper, I can see that this is a pipe going through the slab. Actually, that's clash 3. And I know that we can note that in plan, and that won't be an actual clash in the project. So what I can do is change the status here to approved. I'm going to let that go. But then clash 2, what is this one? Well, the structural model had analytical components with it. So that's not really a clash either. I can just say reviewed, which means that the software is still going to read it as a clash, but maybe we don't need to necessarily do anything about it either. So we can keep it there. And then some of the other states, we'll see here. Actually, oh wait, we had, oh yeah, our sprinkler pipe. We need to deal with that. So for that one, let's assign that one to Mario the plumber. Move pipe. Mario the FP engineer. And assign that. Okay, so now that we've got this, we need to make some changes to the source model at some point. So we can send out a report. So if I go over here to report, I'll choose some of the values that I want to save here. So we'll get a summary, clash point, status. You can choose a little image, which is pretty nice, description, comments. And then we're going to write just the current test and then send it out as an HTML. Click write report. And I'll save it in our file here. Save it. And then when I go back into my folder here, let's open that up. Sure enough, you get a nice report here, one line item for each clash or grouped clash. And you'll send this to all the team members and they'll know what to do. So this one assigned to the HVAC engineer, this one's been reviewed and approved. And then this is the grouped one for the plumber to move the sprinkler pipe. All right, so let's say we are now the we sent that out, and the fire protection or MEP engineer has sent us an updated model. Let's kind of simulate that workflow. So what I can do is go to the current MEP model and just append it with like a dash old. And then let's say here's the new file they sent us. I'm going to put it in my folder here. Now, Navisworks will see if I didn't have the file open, it would see that this file has been updated and it needs to refresh it. Or if I'm working in the file and I know I've updated the files, just click refresh and it will rebuild it for me. So it's recreating that NWC and it's loading it in. And I want to show you something here, because as soon as this comes back in, let's see here. We'll give that a little time here. There we go. Almost there. Okay. So as soon as it reloads, you can see we get this symbol here telling us, hey, something's changed. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So we can go back and rerun this test here. So I'll do update all. It reruns it for me. If we look at the results, look at this. Sprinkler pipe has been resolved. Expand that. No longer an issue. When I click on that, zoom in, we can see that the sprinkler has been moved down. It's no longer hitting our structure. And then let's check out the other one. So Clash 1, it looks like they still didn't update their model, so that's still coming back as a clash here. And then Clash 2 and 3, those remain the same because we didn't do anything with those. All right, so again, we could export this report again, or just kind of leave it as it is. And that is the Clash Detective. Now, I didn't set this up, but another thing, again, like I was saying, you can stack features here. You can also run a clash over time here. If it's during the middle of construction and you know a big piece of equipment needs to be moved through the building, you can see if you'll be able to fit that piece of equipment underneath a bridge or beam or whatever it is in your project. All right, with that, let's go back here to a slide deck here. So those are some of my favorite things about Navisworks. There are a couple other topics we didn't have enough time today to get to, including quantification and rendering. However, if you enjoyed what you've seen here today and want to learn about the topics you've seen, I would love to have you join us for our 2-day Navisworks new user course. You will learn how to do everything you've seen here today, plus a few things we didn't have time to show. And we currently have one class scheduled for December 4th and 5th. Plus, we are always happy to add classes to the schedule if those dates don't work for you. You can let us know some dates that work and we can add a class, or maybe you already have some experience with the software and a full-blown new user course doesn't seem like a good fit. Well, in that case, we can put together a half-day or a full-day custom class that is more focused on just the content you need. And if that sounds good, let us know, and myself and your sales rep would love to have a call with your team and discuss your needs. I thoroughly enjoy going over this stuff, so please reach out. I would also mention you can always keep an eye out for our social media, blog, and email list for relevant and best of all, free articles, tips, and videos. And you know what? While I got this on the screen here, this link to sign up for the course, I'll show you where to find that. So from the main website, you can go to training and support, training, scheduled classes, and do a search for Navisworks. And it should come up here. But here's the class landing page. Again, here's the link to register. I'll put this in the chat window. There's also a syllabus you can download from there. Let me get this into the chat window here real quick here for you. So go, if you pull up the chat window, just go ahead and click on that link and that will take you there. And then let's see here. All right. So with that, I will open it up for Q&A. So if you didn't have a chance yet, please go ahead, locate the questions panel and ask away if you haven't already. Let me go ahead and open that up and see if we've got any here. Okay. Yeah, I see a question. Looks like Tim wants to know if this works with point clouds. I assume you were talking about the clash detective, and yes, it certainly does. There is a button there. I had mine set to surfaces, but if you are clashing versus a point cloud, yeah, you just have to click the button to tell it that it's a point, and it will work with that. And that's another good thing about the software is it, just like any other file type, you can bring the point clouds in here. All right. Let me see. Yeah, we'll give it. Looks like Greg wants to know if there's a way to reassign or rename objects. Let me see here. Yeah, so if there are existing items, that parameter value should be listed. I can't check that for you right now because this data set I was using is all new construction. But even if that parameter value doesn't come through, you can save selection sets of items. So if you needed to designate it as an existing selection, you'd be able to do that. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll just give it a few more seconds for questions to come through here. All right. All right, good stuff. So again, if you did ask a question and we did not get an answer for you, we will follow up on within the next week or so with a good answer for you. And with that, I think that's all I have.